A week ago, my friend, Bankia, contacted me with some evidence that a 30,000 subscriber YouTuber, Quaglet, was a collection duper, so this video will showcase all of that evidence and explain how it proves that Quaglet is indeed a cheater. This video will involve a lot of math, but don't worry, I'll do my best to explain all of it. Also, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, it'll really help the channel. Oh yeah, and join the Discord as well. Anyways, what evidence am I going to be showing off to prove that Quaglet is a collection duper? Well, in Hypixel, you can see people's profiles through their API. Elements like collection, storage menus, and skills are examples of things that can be turned off. There are some elements that cannot be turned off. These are pets and their XP, what armor you're wearing, and most importantly for this video, your Jacob's contest scores. So, looking at Quaglet's Jacob's contest, we can see a lot of low scores, generally under 1k collection gained. However, right in the middle, there is a lot of high ranking scores. By taking a closer look at these numbers, we can develop 3 reasons to prove that Quaglet is indeed using illegitimate methods to get them. 1. Many of these scores are impossible to get. 2. Many of these scores have the same values. And 3. These scores align with chess GUIs. From here on out, I am going to be proving that there is 100% no doubt that Quaglet, a YouTube rank, is a clear collection duper who must be banned. In the 20 minutes of a Jacob's contest, there is a limit to how much collection that you can gain that cannot be surpassed. To find the limit for each crop, I will need to assume a few things about Quaglet. All these assumptions are in his favour. Quaglet has the most efficient farms, so he's mainly using vertical farms since they are far more efficient than their platform-based counterparts, although he was using some horizontal farms, like for pumpkin and melon. Quaglet has a perfect connection to Hypixel. This means no lag, no TPS drops on Hypixel's end, meaning that he loses no extra crops from his internet. Quaglet has 100 million counter and cultivating 10 on all of his farming tools. These are very hard to get for most crops, and I'm not using 1 billion counter hose, since most of them are generally very rare, and for some crops, 1 billion counter hose only exist among the top players. The final assumption that we'll be making is that Quaglet has the highest possible farming fortunes for every crop. Something you might not know is that the in-game farming fortune number is bugged and is way lower than it really is. It's annoying, but if you want to accurately get your farming fortune, you need to go through a checklist of every way to get it, and then you can properly calculate it. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that for the purposes of not overcomplicating the calculations, I am allowing Quaglet to have the farming level cap already raised to 60, and Anita's perk maxed out. These two things are completely impossible to have maxed out before doing any Jacob's contests, but I am allowing the extra fortune. Just so you know, a glitch called host stacking that let you stack the benefits of farming for dummies was patched, and the mushroom cow did not yet exist. Anyways, with all these things out of the way, let's get to the first calculation. The formula for calculating the maximum score is as follows. 20, the ticks per second and maximum blocks per second, multiplied by your time farming in seconds. There is a separate calculation for this, multiplied by the base drop rates of crops before farming fortune is applied, multiplied by 1/100th of your farming fortune multiplier. So this ends up as 20 times T times D times F. And to calculate the time that you spend farming, you need to take the total time you spend farming, 1,200 seconds for a Jacob's contest, and then divide that number by the time that you spend running a row, and then the time you spend falling in that row, then subtract that value from 1,200 again, and then you get the amount of time that you actually spend farming in 1,200 seconds. I hope all those numbers made sense to you. If it doesn't, I'll put another explanation in the description, and if it still doesn't, feel free to ask me in the comments. So, substituting all the numbers in, these are the maximum scores for every contest. You might notice that there is a few duplicates here, and I will explain a few other details behind some of the crops. For example, the reason there is 2 different sugarcane scores here is because there is a non-bannable way to get 6 high sugarcanes, giving you an extra 2 blocks to earn collection from. Although this strategy is very obscure and is rarely used by the public, I still decided to include it on this list just to be safe. And for the pumpkin and melon dices, I needed to alter the calculation by a little bit to include their RNG system. To do this, I simply calculated the blocks that you would break in a Jacobs contest, and then factored their RNG mechanics into it. Then I added it back to the original calculation. Oh, and this formula assumes that you would get the average luck. If Quaglet got 10 times the normal RNG, these would be the maximum drop rates. Keep in mind that 10 times drop rates doesn't mean it's a 1 out of 10 chance of getting. It means you take all the RNG values and multiply them to the power of 10 to get a number so small that it has over 71 zeros in it. So needless to say, there is no way Quaglet could get close to this RNG, but it's good to have all bases covered. Now that we have established the maximum scores to every crop, we can see how many impossible scores Quaglet has achieved. I'm also going to be subtracting anything below 1k for this, since those were probably just contests that he accidentally entered. 4 out of 5 Netherwart contests were impossible, all 7 potato contests were possible, all 2 carrot contests were possible, 1 out of 4 wheat contests were impossible, 3 sugarcane contests are impossible, but with cane stacking, 2 of them are impossible. All 11 pumpkin contests were impossible, all 5 melon contests were possible, 4 cocoa bean contests were impossible, 2 cactus contests were impossible, and all 14 mushroom contests were impossible. Just so you know, 1 impossible score is enough to prove that someone is cheating, but 46 is undeniable proof that Quaglet has cheated in many of his Jacobs contests intentionally. Just to clarify, minions and co-op members farming do not give collection in Jacobs contests. And with this first part out of the way, let's move on to the second reason why Quaglet is a collection duper. Let's pretend for a second that there is some way Quaglet would be able to get the fortune requirements to get these impossible scores. There isn't, but if he could reasonably get them, it would still not prove he was innocent. There is still many more impossibilities in these contests that are hard proof that Quaglet is collection duping. For example, factors like your fortune multiplier, lag, TPS drops, base crop rates, where you're starting your farm, and reaction time will result in 2 contests never having exactly the same scores. So then, tell me why Quaglet has so many Jacobs contests with exactly the same scores. 33 scores were 276,000, 25 scores were 552,000, 4 scores were 103,000, 2 scores were 1,638,000. It's clear use of illegitimate methods to get your scores if you're getting the exact same scores down to the ones place 33 times. So now I've undoubtedly proved that Quaglet is cheating to get his scores, through a lot of hard math and him getting impossible scores, and the logic of him somehow getting the same score 33 times in a row. So let's move on to the final section, where I'll prove that he is collection duping over something else like nuking. You may not have expected this, but I actually know what collection dupe Quaglet used to get these scores. I can say this confidently due to archive screenshots from a few of the top farmers. Looking at the dates on the messages, the earliest the dupe was around, that I can tell, was around the 4th of December 2021. When I asked Buck here, one of the people who provided the screenshots, the collection dupe stopped working when a chest limit was added a few weeks ago, and going back to Quaglet's scores, he was duping from the 8th of January 2022 to the 31st of January 2022, giving him plenty of time to collection dupe. And before we get on to the calculations, let me speculate about something. On the 8th of January, when he likely started the dupe, Quaglet got a contest with 3 different crops in it. Now, normally this doesn't mean anything, but because this was his first contest where he was collection duping, it would make sense for him to try it out with multiple different crops, which explains why there is 3. And they are divisible by the formula that I will show you in just a moment. Let's get on to that. The way that we can prove a chest GUI was used is by doing score divided by 160 divided by 64 divided by 27. 160 items are needed to turn a normal one into its enchanted variety. 64 items can be stored in one slot, and 27 stacks of items can be put into a chest. So, by doing this formula to a majority of Quaglet's scores, we can see that 62 scores were either duped in one chest, a double chest, or two double chests. And while some other scores cannot be directly traced back to a chest or a double chest, they are still divisible by 160 with no remainder, and not that many numbers are. And you may think that this doesn't really prove much if the scores are divisible by 160. However, this means Quaglet, for all the contests that match this, he would have only gotten enchanted items, which is just not plausible. So by doing a little more math, it's clear to see that the collection dupe relies on a chest GUI. Just to nail in the point that Quaglet is a collection duper, here are all the smaller things that I found that don't need their own section, but still serve as incriminating or suspicious evidence. Although I can't prove many of them, on top of everything else that I have proven, they're all pretty reasonable. Quaglet's collection API is off, meaning he could have duped more outside of Jacob's contests. While he could have destroyed them, the only farms on Quaglet's island are a destroyed netherwart farm and a sugarcane farm. Meaning there is no way to prove that Quaglet has actually built farms for Jacob's contests, unless they're in some old footage. There is no auto cactus farm. It's possible to get a little more score in a cactus contest if you have an auto cactus farm on your island. It's a tiny improvement, but I don't see one present. Although, yet again, it could have been destroyed. There's a lot of glitched items on his island, so it's likely that Quaglet could have learned of a collection dupe along the way. And yeah, that's about it. These are just things that I can't necessarily prove, but still seem very suspicious due to everything else I have proven so far. Take the big 3 points more seriously, but do keep these in mind. I am going to try to give 2 quick reasons as to why I think Quaglet did this. 1. He wanted gold medals to up his farming level cap, but couldn't be bothered to build his farms. It's a pretty common frustration, but still a pretty dumb reason to collection dupe. And 2. He wanted to be ranked in a contest, so collection duped, and only stopped when Jacob's contest came on. This does give an explanation as to why so many scores are one chest or one double chest. Quaglet, you are a YouTube rank, someone who Skyblock players would look up to, and you thought it would be a good idea to collection dupe. It was only a matter of time until someone found out, and unluckily for you, it was Bachner who passed that information on to me. I will be passing all of this evidence to staff members, and hopefully you will be banned, unless you can offer up a reasonable explanation to everything I show in this video. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and join our Discord if you want to interact with me. Anyways, watch another video, and I'll see you all next time.